experience, even, entertaining that possibility. But now that I've had that in my life, I've thought a few different times, well, what would I do in that situation? I think that curiosity is part of the preparation. And when you're preemptive about it, you're thinking, well, not could this happen to somebody, but you say, what if it happened to me? Hello, Levelin Up Nation. This is Brigham Blackham, your host, your success story strategist. So grateful today to have Chris Whiteman on. We have an awesome topic for you today. Now, Chris, you need to know a little bit about him. He is a retired U.S. Air Force survival, evasion, resistance, and escape specialist. You are SOF personal recovery advisor, an Operation Black Site instructor, which I'm super excited to attend that in the near future. MDK project instructor, CEO of Eternal Warriors Mountaineering and Survival School, father of twin 17-year-old daughters and 14-year-old son. And I've got my little baby here as well. So, man, we're going to have a great talk about preemptive preparation, not just preparation, but making sure that we are so prepared that when those contingencies happen, we know what to do, how to do it, and be able to have a cool, clear mindset as we're going through it. So, Chris, welcome to the show, my friend. So good to see you.
Hey, thank you. I greatly appreciate you having me on, and I'm excited to offer this opportunity for education, professional growth, and development for people.
Awesome. Well, one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this topic of preemptive preparation was when we were in Seattle together with the Final Percent Network. You showed and demonstrated exactly how being extremely prepared when someone like kidnaps you is something that you don't usually think about, but when it happens, it is so essential to know some of those escape tactics, some of the ways that you can be prepared. Because in business, there are things that come up. In life, there are things that come up. There are horrible situations, there are great situations, but the better prepared we are, the easier it is to respond with clarity. So why is this so important in your perspective, to be prepared?
Well, you kind of hit it there in what you're talking about. Description of kind of, it's life has a guarantee. There's that saying, you're guaranteed death and taxes. Well, you're also guaranteed struggle. You're also guaranteed that if you're living life to the fullest and you've got the gas pedal pushed, or you're trying to live out your life with pleasure, you're going to have the other side of pain. Something's going to happen that's going to throw adversity at you, because it's a test. We're meant to be tested. We're meant to have to go through the struggles, because that's where growth happens. That's where that adversity is what makes us stronger, makes us better, makes us more resilient. We don't recognize it when we're going through it unless we've had prior preparation. And it's the idea that prior preparation is important or significant in the idea. You may have never experienced a dilemma or circumstance or the hardship or the adversity that gets thrown at you or thrown in your lap ever, but you may have thought about it. You may have actually, like, what if this were to happen? A lot of people think that, I'm a hypochondriac, or not me personally, just that they give this stereotype of you could be a hypochondriac, you could be a worrywart, or whatever you want to call it. Reality is just being real with yourself in the world and the environment we live in, that things are going to happen. Jason Redmond, in his book, it's called Overcome, talks about being thrown in the X. In his role in special operations as a Navy SEAL, they would go into a target or a firefight, and that was what's called the X. It's where the battle happens, right? My world, in the personnel recovery side, as a personnel recovery advisor, the X was where the special operations team were in on a target or doing their mission, and things went bad. So we would eventually go into the X as well, but our job was to get everybody off the X. Jason's job, when things go bad, was to get off the X, get out of the X. The X is the bad spot. The X is the death. The X is the bankruptcy. The X is the divorce. The X is, whatever it might be thrown at you, a life-threatening injury or terminal cancer, whatever it is, it's the X. Well, if you've never thought about, like, what would happen, what would I do? How would I feel? What would I think about? How would I handle that situation? you could be in for a world of hurt. You could be in for a world of struggle, loss, and completely unable to function. You know, it goes into that fight, flight, or freeze mechanism that our body's a natural response to. The way you combat that is preemptive preparation. So the best example I like to give to people is when it comes to preemptively being prepared, one of the best ways that we used to do it was people go through airborne school, jump school in the military, right? When they become parachute qualified, you go through parachute training, you have to run all these drills, you learn all these techniques and do this stuff. Well, the other side of that is there's somebody that pushes that guy out the door. There's somebody that stands up in the plane first and says, hey, sound off for equipment check. Sound, hook up, move forward to the door, you know, equipment check, all this stuff like this. They give these signs, they do all this. Well, they're in charge of and responsible for the health and well-being of the person that's going out the door. They're the jump master. Mm-hmm. One of the hardest courses in the military is to become a jump master because it is so tedious to learn all the potential things that could go wrong with the parachute, with the mechanism, and being able to, in a quick check, identify those and say whether the parachute's serviceable or not, fixing it on the spot, and then making sure that it's safe for that person to jump out of a plane at 1,500 feet, 15,000 feet, it doesn't matter, right? Well, the course is only 3 weeks. So in 3 weeks, you have to be able to identify one of many hundred different things that could potentially be wrong with this parachute harness, the parachute itself, the way that somebody puts it on. If a strap's twisted, if it's twisted in the chest strap, does that affect potential issues of how certain things deploy, like certain cords, certain levers, all this stuff, right? So in 3 weeks, this sounds almost impossible to be able to do. And oh, by the way, so you don't just do it to one parachute. When I went through, we had to do it for 3 different parachute systems. One was what they called Hollywood, which is just the chute itself. Another one was full equipment, which is the same chute with full equipment. And then, oh, by the way, it was convenient enough that we were transitioning parachutes in the military, going to a newer, better model, which is awesome. But hey, we still have the other ones in inventory. So now you have to learn 2 different parachute systems. So now I have to learn how to do the same thing on a completely different parachute. And oh, by the way, the time standard is you've got to go through 3 jumpers, parachutists that are standing in front of you for a check. You've got to make sure you check from head to toe in less than 3 minutes, all 3 of them. And you have to identify any malfunctions that they have. If you don't get all 3 done in less than 3 minutes and you don't identify the malfunctions, major or minor, you fail. And you only get one your first test and then 1 retest. That's it. So oh, by the way, when you report it too, you have to say the proper nomenclature. It can't just be this strap. No. Upper right riser or hook pile lowering tape. Hook pile lowering tape to the military, it's Velcro. But that's the military nomenclature is hook pile lowering tape. Right? Okay, wait a minute. So knowing all these things, my point to this though is during those 3 weeks, the only thing that you can do is prior preparation. And that comes in the form of what we call ghost drills. So I would stand there and visualize in my head a parachutist standing in front of me with all his gear. And I would go through the sequence on repeat. I set up my little iPad, I put a timer, and then I would go through the jumper right here. I'd go all the way through, and then I'd go all the way through, and then I'd go all the way through 3 different times. And I would time stamp it. And as soon as it stopped, I'd give myself 20 seconds, hit the timer again, and I'd do it again. I did that every day from the time we got out of training at the end of the day till about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. I'd get 4 hours of sleep, but I would run literally nonstop, 3-minute drill every hour, as many times as I could get it done for, I don't know, better part of 2 weeks in order to guarantee my success. And I still didn't know what type of malfunction I was going to see on the parachutes that they were going to put in front of me for the standard. I didn't know if it was going to be those 3 styles because they could change it up. One could be half equipment because when you have equipment, it could be full equipment, it could be half equipment. So the point of this is like your success when you get thrown into those hard times, and when you get life throws things at you, adversity, or you don't know when it's coming, your success on coming out of those or being stronger coming out of those truly lies in that preemptive preparation, regardless of what it is in life, regardless of what you're doing. When we go to make a financial decision, I'm sure you can attest to this. You don't make a major financial decision without sitting there like, okay, what are the pros and cons? Why don't we do that with more things in our life? Simple decisions every day. Hey, I'm going to need to make, I want to do this podcast with you. Okay, what are the pros and cons? Like, I don't know of any cons, so it's like, okay, cool. This is who we can affect. This is who we can reach. So let's do it, right? Why not? Perfect. But you at least owe it to yourself and your community and what you're passionate about, what you're trying to achieve and go after, to do those things. Now, we don't want to get what they call action paralysis.
Yeah.
You don't want to have
paralysis. That just
correct, right? So you don't want to right. You want to be able to take action right away. You don't want to do that analysis paralysis. You want to or get like avoid taking immediate action, because there are times where it's like, okay, we need to do this, right? So that, though, is also further illustrates the importance of preemptive preparation, because when those things come that require your immediate decision making as a leader, as a father, as a husband, as a brother, or whatever the role you fill, if you're required to make an immediate decision and take action, your confidence, your security, and your success truly will lie on what have you done leading up to this that's allowed you to be able to step forward, take that next step in the direction you need to go.
I love that. So, Chris, this is popping up into my head. I think it's really impressive the way that you were a jump master. You took all of those precautions, but it wasn't just here's the book learning. You did models of what it was like. You went through the ghost preparation of here's the process, and you mastered the process. I think part of being a business owner is not just recognizing that there is a process that you understand on a surface level, but you've gone all through those levels of learning, being able to say, I now know what I didn't know. You went from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent, and then you keep working at it. You go through that process until you're like, well, I can do this with some serious effort. You're consciously competent, and then you get to unconsciously competent. I think that's the difference with preemptive preparation versus just shallow preparation. Because when it really counts, when people's lives are on the line, not just yours in business, if you make bad business decisions, your employees, their financial well-being can absolutely be destroyed. You can lose that engine that is moving your vehicle forward. So for you, when you are making great decisions in business, how does that preparation fuel you? How does that preparation give you confidence in making those decisions? And what are some of the pitfalls that you've noticed in people's preparation in your own experience?
Yeah. So again, when it comes down to is like when you get to a point where you're making decisions and you have that confidence about it and you feel good about making decisions, there's so much more that's happened leading up to that to be able for you to have that confidence and to be able to capitalize on that success, make that success a reality. It might not be directly related, but knowing that in the certain situations and stressful situations, especially when people are relying on you, to be able to say, hey, I can be that person. You know what? I may not have all the answers, but I know that I can figure it out, and I can get everybody here on this team to move forward with me, and we can figure it out together. It's huge. I mean, and then that's, again, it goes into your energy too of, if you're open, you're honest, and you're willing, and you can get people to like believe because they see it, that you're passionate about it. You want them to succeed, not just for you to succeed. You want the whole process to succeed. It gives them something. It gives them hope. It gives them something to believe in, and it gives them something to also want to succeed and put their energy and effort into as well. And it also helps them learn. They may not realize it, but in that aspect, it's a great learning experience for them too. And then ultimately, you know, we hear this over and over, especially as growing up and whatnot. But it's just I still don't believe that it's emphasized enough or highlighted, especially on the after action side of it. What I mean by the after action is like doing a review, after action review in the military. We call it AAR. When those things happen and you have that warm fuzzy and you step forward into the right direction and you're making progress and you're doing good things, it is extremely valuable and important every step along the way just to pause when you're able to say, okay, let's stop and review what we just did and weigh the pros and the cons, because even though you may have had great success, there's always room for improvement. But if you don't stop and do the after action review and basically give yourself a report card, ask others to give you a report card in the form of feedback. Feedback is crucial, but all feedback is communication again. And if you're in an environment where even as a leader or as a follower, you feel compelled to give people feedback in a constructive way that's positive and moving forward. Hey, you did a freaking rock star job, boss. I love it. I'm excited to do it again with you. Here's where some things that I think we did right. Here's, I think, some things that you personally can do as improvement wise when it comes to communicating that with us and helping us be better to show up for you and make a better product even more so for the company and what we can put out there. But what would you do as somebody who is an owner of a company or you know, the leader of a company or a manager if you had a team member that came to you and gave you that kind of feedback, right? Like me, at least, I'm like, this is awesome. Like, okay, how about we do this? You step into my role, and I want to be yours. Like, not because I'm taking offense, but like the fact that you were willing to come to me and point these out, and you saw this, tells me you're ready to step up and be in that leadership role too. Let's do it together in the leadership role to make it even better, and we'll work symbiotically. And oh, by the way, who else do you think on the team we can put in charge of different things? Like, let's bring the whole team together. Let's get everybody together and see what their thoughts were too, right? And it's that idea, it's positively encouraging everybody to get better and come along. Like, if you have a team member that comes to you and says, hey, I love what you did, boss, and I want to see you get better as our boss, and I want to come with you while you're getting better, like, you're winning. Like, you straight up, you're just winning. So the feedback doesn't, it's a big part of that is feedback just doesn't go one way. It needs to go both ways. And it needs to be like, it needs to be done more frequently. Communication is key in everything we're doing. That communication is, of course, a form of feedback. After action reviews. After action review is a form of communication. It's communicating to everybody that you see value in the idea of, hey, we had success. Great, cool. Well, here's a perfect example. How many people in a business right now have a playbook on the shelf that says pull in case of emergency? And what was the emergency we experienced in the last 4 years? Shutdown, COVID, right?
Pandemic, right?
How many people have actually stopped and actually brought a think tank together, mastermind in their business, inside of their business, right? We pay money to go to be a part of masterminds. We're part of the final percent. We're part of, you know, this group. That's awesome. Other business owners coming together. Okay, well, now go inside your business, create a small think tank or mastermind. And Roosevelt did this inside of our government when he brought people in, right? It's okay. So let's take everything and let's analyze the systems and processes and how we had to pivot based off of our COVID response. It doesn't need to be called COVID, but emergency response plan as a business. How do we pivot? What are the lessons and learns? What did we do right? Should we do differently? Where should we look next time? And then what are the things that we know are like, this is going to be a standard across the board? These are things that we know we immediately have to do within the first 48 hours. And then within the first 2 weeks, right? How many businesses, regardless of size, have that? Or we're just, we made it through, we're good, let's just keep pressing. Like, pray to God that never happens again, right? Too many people in life are doing that in their households. Like, oh, that'll never happen again. Same with, you know, what is it? It'll never happen to me scenario. Goes right into this conversation we're having, preemptive preparation. You know, when they did the the speech in Seattle and the demonstration in Seattle, it was like, if you walk through life with the idea that, you know what, that's wild, it's crazy, you see all these things on YouTube, or, oh, you know, that'll never happen to me, but, you know, that sucks, like, I really feel bad for them, like, you're setting yourself up for a date with destiny that you don't want. It's going to be inevitable, and you, if you can't at least give it thoughts, or, you know, play a game in your head for yourself of like, what would I do? Like, if you're willing to sit down and watch a movie about somebody going through it, and the other side, and it's can be far-fetched and unrealistic, why can't you take 10 minutes and create your own story? Like, what would I do? Watch the movie, and then after, like, what would I do in that scenario? How would I do things differently? I mean, you don't have to analyze everything. Yes, it takes the joy and the entertainment out of it, but
that after action review, like you said, I think this is one of the keys that I took away from my theater background. Anytime that you were in rehearsal, you have the best version that you put out during rehearsal that you possibly can. And then the director will say, you know what, let me give you some critiques. Here's what I saw here. This is the message that we're trying to communicate. This was a little bit off. Let's tweak the way that line was read. Let's change your blocking here. Let's move this. And through that process of critiques where you go, you think about it, you do it, and then you review it. You think, you do review, you think, do review. It's those different iterations. The version of your story increases its potency and clarity as you go through those critiques, as you go through those iterations. I think that's what you're talking about from a military context and a business context. And I think I learned this so many different times in theater, that if you had that note, but you didn't do anything with the note, why did you do the review? It was a waste of everybody's time. And if you think about the same thing in military, if you have those reviews, but nobody changes and applies them, it's not useful. It's actually just wasting everybody's time. But as soon as you apply those little adjustments, you get more in alignment. And when things are in alignment, they can go smoothly, they can go quickly, and it changes your confidence because you're more competent in that specific situation. And I think that's one of the things that impressed me so much in Seattle, seeing you guys going and creating the space that was needed to be able to escape, like, say, a situation where you got kidnapped and strapped to a chair with some ropes. You're like, how did you go and create that escape and create this? I think that's one of the reasons why people would want to go and be part and experience this with Operation Black Site, because you give them not just the concept, but an experience to go along with it. Because I'll never forget that. That was my first even, entertaining that possibility. But now that I've had that in my life, I've thought a few different times, well, what would I do in that situation? I think that curiosity is part of the preparation. And when you're preemptive about it, you're thinking, well, not could this happen to somebody, but you say, what if it happened to me? What would I do in that situation? So with you, Chris, when you're thinking about business and you have some really negative things, we talked about COVID a little bit, but when you're thinking about some of those things that could be absolutely detrimental, maybe you get a lawsuit, or you have some really horrible things that happen. Maybe someone passed away on your property. I don't know, something that's huge. What are some of the ways that you've been able to see your preparation, your mental preparation, your physical preparation, your litigious preparation, make sure all the different elements of your business are put together in such a way that you have confidence to combat any problem that pops up in your business? What have you done?
So ultimately, it comes down to, when you're doing your business, there's a right and a wrong way. There's what you know. Of course, there are things you're going to go, especially if you don't have the experience, that you're probably going to overlook, or you might miss, and you might make mistakes. That's fine. But no, there's a difference between making a mistake and owning that mistake and saying, oh crap, you know what? Totally had missed that, didn't know about it. And owning that, like, you know what, that's our fault, we'll fix it and move forward, right? The key to that is fixing it, owning it, and then moving forward so it doesn't happen again. The other part of it, though, is knowing and than not willingly taking action on it or following through. What I mean is, there's a right and wrong way to do something, and you know what? Yeah, we should do it this way, but to save time and money, we're gonna cut corners. We're gonna do it this way. A lot of times that comes back and bites you in the butt, right? And it's one of those. It's like going into adversity where, say, it's a lawsuit or something happens that's extremely significant like that. The first thing you should be doing is reflecting, like, okay, what is it we didn't do, or what have we done to lead up to this? Did we do everything the way we were supposed to? Did we cross our T's? Did we dot our I's? Did we create an environment that this shouldn't have happened? Was it preventable? Were we aware of this risk? If we were aware of this risk, what have we put into place to mitigate this risk? Because you're not going to venture forward and do business or life and not assume risk. Like, that's just not feasible. Like, you're always going to have some element of risk. It's amount of, okay, what level of risk were we willing to accept and know that this is a possibility? And then also, did we prepare whoever for that risk as well? Like, did they do a liability release? Did we have them sign an NDA? Did we, over communicate to them that they're also liable in this situation, and now they're just upset and they're acting emotionally versus, how have we played it out? Are we acting emotionally? And being able to, again, that preemptive preparation is where you can navigate those really, really stressful and emotional scenarios and situations safely, confidently, and in some aspects comfortably, because like I used to tell my guys in the military, is like, I will always go to battle for you as long as you've done the right thing. If we know it's the right thing to do, we know it's the correct answer, and it's what we need to do to make the mission happen, I will fall on my sword for you every day. But if we didn't do the work that was necessary leading up to this to give them confidence, to trust us, to believe in us, that we're going to follow through, or that we are in doing the right thing, or we have the right intentions, then we have to show our worth. We have to show them through our action and how we're going to deal with this situation. Like, there's still a lot of value to be gained and had in how you handle yourself in those extremely stressful and emotional circumstances, because you can still come out the other side and maintain trust with people. They can maintain trust with you and confidence in you that, okay, this is just a really bad situation, really crappy circumstances, but I don't see this unfavorably on the individual or the company. This is just something that happened. They dealt with it appropriately, with respect, with ownership and confidence, and they were willing to move forward and take action to make sure it doesn't happen again. A lot of times people can't do that because they know that they're too embarrassed, or their reputation, or they didn't do the right work prior to. They are, and regrettably, it comes down to two, is like, especially in bigger corporations or bigger entities, the guy at the top is like, well, I had no idea this was going on, and it's like, well, then whose fault is that ultimately? Ignorance. Especially when you're the leader, you're the commander, you're the person in charge, you don't get to be ignorant of a situation. And if somebody in your company didn't communicate to you this was going on, or they weren't doing it right, you didn't communicate the standards properly, you didn't communicate the expectations properly, you didn't create an environment that when shit hit the fan, for them to come to you and say, hey boss, I hate to tell you this, but this is what we've got going on. How do you want me to navigate this? How do we do this? And then being there to support them, say, okay, let's figure it out. Right? None of that happened, but guess what? It still falls on your shoulders. In the military element, the commander is the only person that assumes risk. The sole person that assumes the risk and takes on the risk for everybody in the mission. Right? Company's really no different. right? The person in charge of the company, the owner, is the only person who assumes a risk, because at the end of the day, he's the one that's going to pay the paychecks. He's going to want to make sure the lights come on. He's the one that keeps the company open. And if it goes bankrupt, he's ultimately the one that has to file the bankruptcy.
Yeah. And being willing to say, this is my responsibility. Whatever data point from whoever it is in the organization that brings that to him, being approachable enough to say, yeah, that's my responsibility. Let's figure this out. I think that's a great mindset, to just take complete ownership of who you are, what you're doing. Because if you don't ask the questions, that's when it gets a little scary. And there's even questions in my business I probably haven't asked yet. So I need to ask some of those hard questions and think about those contingencies. Just because I don't know anyone that's faced those issues doesn't mean that you couldn't face them. So when you're thinking about how to go about positively impacting people through equipping them with these mental frameworks, and you do this with Operation Black Site, what are some of the ways that you keep people out of fear and in faith and in momentum to say, let's keep it cool. Let's make sure that we can feel equipped going into whatever negative situation or whatever potential threat there is. How do you keep them away from just being afraid? Because I think there are a lot of times there's like fear mongering that happens in the media, and that's not what you guys do. You don't just get people scared. You say, well, let's deal with this challenge with the exact circumstances and take some of the emotions out of it. Let's talk about what that looks like in practicality.
Yeah. The first thing to do is to understand that fear is healthy. Fear is it's a response. It's a stress response. But the biggest thing you can do is recognize it for what it is. Like, stop. Okay, what is causing me to have this? What is causing me to feel this way or invoking this response? Like, why? And like, okay, have I ever dealt with this before? Again, we go back to that analysis part of this, and it's like, okay, what is it that I'm really afraid of? Like, and when I taught the teach an escapes lesson, I talk about like somebody takes you hostage, they put you in a dark room or throws you in the trunk of a car, and they tape you up or tie you up with rope or whatever. Okay, let's look at it from a problem standpoint. And what is it that I'm afraid of? Well, they've taken me hostage and they're in control of me. Okay, so if you're afraid of them having control of you and harming you, how then do you do the converse to that? How do I take back control? Well, first, foremost, it has to be immediately your thoughts and mind. You have to take a deep breath and like, okay, how can I deal with this? Like, what is it that's really going on? Problem solve. Okay, what's my immediate problem? It's these guys that got me. Like, no. If I'm tied up, my immediate problem is I got to get my hands free. What is it they have me tied up with? Well, it's rope. Okay, what kind of rope? Is it loose? Do I have any movement here? How can I exploit this rope or this tape or whatever it is, these zip ties, and get out of it? Like, well, rope is made out of what? Cotton, natural fibers, maybe polyester, like whatever it is, right? Okay, well, what do we know about that? It's man-made. It can be destroyed is one of the principles we teach, right? So it's like, okay, so I could probably burn through it. I can cut through it. I can bite through it. Tear through it, whatever it is. It's acceptable to heat. It'll melt. Okay, sweet. So I've got some solutions. How do I create those solutions in the environment I am? Can I slip out of this? Can I move the rope to where I can stretch it? Like all these different things. What happens when you start to critically think about that? Like, and no different like flex cuffs. Like we talked about the zip ties, right? What are zip ties made out of? Plastic, right? Okay, wait a minute. So a thin piece of plastic is what's causing me to have this fear, the like the immediate response to fear, because I feel like I'm out of control. They've taken me hostage and I can't move, or I'm tied up and they've got me, right? Like, so you're going to let a thin piece of plastic hold you back from being able to escape or fight back, or at least give you the ability to have this different circumstances that maybe you could affect your escape or affect, your rescue. Like, no, No, like, wait a minute, time out. No, when I look at it that way, all I got to do technically is, with enough time, just bend the plastic. Guess what happens with plastic? It heats up and it gets brittle and it breaks. You rub it against something. It can be something flat. It breaks down. Microplastics. It just starts fraying. It just goes away, right? So same with the rope. Like, you just do this on your, even on your hand. Yeah, you're gonna probably put a burn on your hand. Okay, so guess what? I'm still heating up the plastic too. Like, it's one of those things. Like, wait a minute, let me really think about this. Like, and then from there, it's a matter of like, okay, I can do this. And once you get that momentum shift and you get the idea of like, okay, what's next, and you immediately start doing these little problem solving. And when you get also too in those stressful situations, like, this isn't working. You're running up against the bolt, like, it should be working. Like you said, to just bend the plastic and it should be breaking. Like, okay, again, stop, take a deep breath. What am I not thinking about? Is there a simpler solution to this? Well, crap, there's a edge on this inside of this trunk of this car, this little metal edge right here. Instead of me just bending it, let me just run this little piece of plastic up against this metal edge here now and speed up the process and look at it from a different way. Jocko Willenick talks about it, front sight, getting front sight focused, fixated on your front sight when you're looking down the barrel of a gun and you're only looking at what's at the tip, at the gun, at the barrel, instead of sometimes lifting your head and looking at the whole field of fire to see like, oh wait, there's a bad guy over here too that I've been looking down the barrel of my gun and I didn't see him in my peripheral over here because I'm still focused on what's straight in front of me rather than what could potentially be coming to the sides as well. Or in the example he gives in the book, they had to cross this platform and everybody was stuck in a hold because they were walking into what they call a fatal funnel. And if they went that one direction, everybody was going to get killed. And they knew it. So they just stopped and paused. They were waiting for instruction. They waited for a little over a minute. And the head guy was not giving because he didn't know what to do because he was so focused on we're supposed to go this way. Jocko steps back, takes a look, and sees that there's another path off to the side. And he calls an audible for the group, and everybody just quickly follows and goes. Because, again, when we talk about communication, if you have that open environment communication, anybody in the team can quickly step up, be the leader, and everybody follows suit because they see that there's still a path to success. And we made the original path that we were on might leave us in a bad situation, but we can pivot and we can step around this and we can still get to the same thing. Again, communication, it's analyzing what you're going through, preemptive preparation leading up to that, having the confidence like, hey, we as a team, we've communicated, we know this. Like, if something comes up and somebody sees another opportunity or a different way, even though we're going down this one path, it is okay to say, hey guys, stop for a minute. What if we do this? What about going about this way? Yeah, we're already moving down this path, but if we just sidestep just slightly and take this path, we'll be able to accelerate so much faster. Like, why wouldn't you want to be in an environment that encourages, that allows that and promotes that? It's like too many people that get project focused, like, no, this is how we're supposed to do it. This is how we have to do it. This is what the success is. It's like, sometimes you don't know what you don't know until you get into the thick of things. And we call it an audible, or we call it a fragmentation order in the military, meaning like, hey, change plan. This is your new mission. This is how we're changing things up. And you go with it. The fun when I tell people is semper gumby, forever flexible.
I was just thinking, one of the skill sets that just popped into my head because my theaters and my background is in theater, is this idea of just go with it. There are certain things in your plan where you say, this is what I want to have happen, that it almost never goes there perfectly in any plan. Right. But as you start to say, this is my objective, there are so many different tactics that you can use, so many different strategies you can use to actually get that objective met. When we're willing to open our eyes to new possibilities, not just be that front sight focus, like you said, but to be able to recognize there are multiple ways and multiple choices. And if we analyze those choices, we can go around some of them and find a better path. So in business, I think that's a great way to think about it. Just because you have a project, you're like, this is what the outline of the project is. This is where we're going. If there's a better way to get that same objective met, why not open your mouth and ask your team, hey, do you guys see another way to make this more cost effective? Do you see another way to make this more applicable, to attract more people, to have a better way to make this happen? So I think that's brilliant, very applicable idea, Chris, for sharing that. Because in business, you want to have those open lines of communication. If you only have that leader that says, well, you're going to do it my way or the highway, there's going to be a lot of breakdowns, and that's going to just be part of the process. So for you, when you're working on building preparation for your business, let's say, what is that one bit of encouragement that you would say? Let's leave this with the audience. What's that little bit of encouragement that you would say, if you did this, it will make you more prepared mentally, physically, spiritually, all these different things going into whatever problem you've got? What is that tip or that encouragement that you'd give?
You have to be the standard. You can exceed the standard, but you are, as the leader, as the owner, as the person at the top, you are seen as the standard. You are seen as the model of what success is supposed to be. Doesn't matter how you see yourself, doesn't matter what. So that means you have to live an authentic lifestyle. And what you need to really evaluate what that means to you. Like, if you have these standards for your company, but you don't maintain the standards for yourself, meaning you don't go work out every day and make your physical and mental well-being a priority, how are you going to expect your workers to work optimally and their health to be optimal? And like, how does that relate? Like, if you know your health diminishes, you have pain, you don't get good enough sleep, you're irritable, you're not operating functionally because you simply don't work out well, or you don't eat the right foods, or you don't give yourself time to meditate or read a book, professional development. If you don't make these things a priority and do them yourself, again, if you're the standard, you can guarantee that the people that work with you or you're on your team are likely not doing it as well. And it's not something that it is something that's going to directly impact the success of your company. And if you don't see the relationship, you don't believe that, go find the successful companies that are out there doing it. And I'm waging success off not by the dollar, but by how well they function, how well they pivot, how well they handle those adversities, the things that come at them. They hit them, they get hit by it, they quickly identify it, identify a solution, they navigate through it, and they press. And then they still are successful. They move. Or if they take a hit and the company dives, they quickly recover. And it's because they have certain things in place and disciplines. And, it's a matter of, like, if your standard in the company is one thing, why isn't everybody's personal well-being and physical fitness part of that standard? And regrettably, in today's society and culture, it seems less prevalent because it's a scary thing, because you can get in trouble for telling people you have to maintain a certain fitness standard, you have to look a certain way, you have to, do certain, like, your company, start out by hiring the right people. put the right people in there to begin with that have the same values, vision, and belief, but also see that that's a priority of the company and you as the big head of the company. If they come in the door and they see you're overweight and you're stressed out, you have black rings underneath your eyes and you look stressed out, you might be making millions and millions of dollars and promise them hundreds of thousands of dollars as part of the team. They may be willing to come work for you, but I guarantee you they're questioning, like, am I going to look like that? Or, hey, we expect you to work here until the job's done and long hours and all this stuff, but that's part of the job, that's part of the mission. You're going to make tons of money doing it. Are you really ready to do it? Yeah, okay, I'll do whatever. I just want to get in and be successful. It's like, really? So you telling them they're going to come in and work long hours, like, yeah, it's okay on occasion, and there's times where it's neat and maybe necessary, but like, hey, part of this company is also making sure you prioritize your health and well-being, your family, and you communicate to us how everything's going, because your family, when you come in here, your family is our family, and we understand that life happens. Somebody's going to get sick, something's going to happen, and we can't show up for you and help you or support you and your family if we don't know about it. And it also, guess what, if we bring you in, all those things directly affect the success of this company, period. Like,
Love that.
if somebody's hiring me and wants me to come and work and they tell me that right off the bat, I'm in. Like, okay, you care about my family. We're not even talking about the work and the job or the like money. We're talking about, hey, I'm not just bringing you in, I'm bringing your family into this company, and we're going to take care of you and your health and well-being first as a priority. Understand, we still expect you to come in and work hard, and there's going to be times where we're going to have to work really hard, but we're also going to make sure that, you know, it's worth it. It's for a good reason.
I think that's excellent encouragement to make sure that you are the standard.
Yeah.
And being a standard, and not just in business. I thought that was a great holistic approach. We talk about the infinity model quite often on this podcast because Greg has blown my mind multiple times with how everything is integrated, how your community is tapped into your personal life, your business life, your vitality. All those things matter. And for me, if I'm doing things that my kids can't see, you know what? I probably shouldn't be doing those things. And I don't want to be doing those things. But correct. I want to make sure that when I'm doing business transactions, when I'm doing anything in my community or in vitality, it all comes down to, can I have this be open? Can other people see it? And am I that standard that others can look to as well? So I'm better in every way that I can. And I can tell you are as well. I love your focus on fitness, your focus on preparation. You're an excellent father and example of what happens when you do your very best with the given circumstances that you have. And you don't just think about it, but you go and take action. You go through the models, you do what you need to be prepared. So Chris, thank you so much for being an example and a standard to look to, as well as just a great guy. So thank you for sharing your example and your story. So much fun to have you. Any final things that you wanted to say to have people know where to find you online?
Yeah, first and foremost, thank you. I appreciate it. And, you know, it's one of those things that I'm very fiercely protective of my community and who I allow into that community and people that I communicate with and or associate with. So I just want you to know that, you know, it takes one to know one, as they say. So while you say those things of me, make sure you look in the mirror and remind that those are the same qualities that you bear yourself. Obviously, little guy there with you and your kids being a part of this. That's awesome. We need to see more of that. So good job. Keep going. More. My last military supervisor used to tell me, regardless of what we would do or the level of success we'd have, is he'd come up, give me a nod, shake my hand, or like a quick fist bump, and say, "All right, more and better." Those were his direction. More and better.
More and better.
That's my direction to you. More and better. So yeah, if people want to come and find us, my spouse and I, we own a business and called Eternal Warriors Expedition. You can go on Instagram. You can look at us, Eternal Warriors Official. You can look up me, chris.l.weichman on Instagram. Instagram is probably going to be the easiest way to get a hold of us. And then we do expeditions around the world. Part of our expeditions are to help people have better communication, also deal with trauma and resiliency and how to work through those things to be better in life for their family, for their business, for themselves. And then we also, again, like I do, I teach at some of the other masterminds that friends and business associates are in. And I will teach like the survival aspects, the evasion, escape stuff, and all that. Regrettably, today's world, hostage, kidnapping, ransom, stuff like that is more prevalent. And especially if you're somebody who is influence or affluence and you're traveling around the world, you are a target. And you're a target of opportunity, and they look at you as an easy button for a paycheck. So I want people to be better prepared for, you know, the what if scenario, because regrettably it's starting to turn into, well, when this happens, am I prepared? So
thank you so much. Well, Chris, it is a pleasure to spend time with you. I'm excited to hang out a little bit more at the Infinity Summit and all the future things we're going to be doing. So I appreciate you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And guys, with that, we're going to close. God bless. Follow for more value, and we'll see you next time.